Whoa, there it is! Oh, it's all happening. That's crazy, what? If I slowly push it, I've got analog control on my arcade stick. So essentially what Daigo was doing is he was making it look like literally no dead zone in the middle. It sounds a little bit fuzzy, like they weren't really sure whether they should ban it or not, so they just banned it anyway. The humble gamepad controller has a D-pad and an analog stick, so shouldn't your fight stick have one too? Well, that's the question we're gonna try and answer today with this product which has just come in. It's the Magenta arcade stick. I know it doesn't look like one right now, but it's in this box. I can actually replace this stick, which is digital, right, left, down, up. It's not analog, where it's like a little bit left and a little bit right. With this stick, apparently I can have analog control in my fighting games. Now, you may be wondering, why on earth would you want to do that? But essentially all you need to know is that it doesn't actually come out analog. It's analog in the sense that what goes into it can be a little bit left or a little bit right, but what comes out of it is completely left or completely right. And so what the game sees is still digital. So instead of going all the way to the right, you could just push it a little bit and it'll be more sensitive or less sensitive. So you could program your own personal arcade stick that allows you to play fighting games with only tiny little minute little movements, or with massive wide open movements, or you could just completely dead zone all of the inputs that you don't like. So if you've got issues like you always press right a little bit too much or a little bit left too much when all you're trying to do is just go down, well apparently this could be the solution for you. Let's go ahead and unbox it. I've got a knife here. I guess we could just stab at it. Always cut away from yourself. Analog control for your fighting game. Paradise Arcade Shop. Some business card. I did receive this from Paradise Arcade Shop. I didn't really know much about this stick. They just sent me an email and said, would you like to make a video about this? And I was like, sure, it sounds really interesting. And inside, you get a bubble wrapped, what looks like essentially a standard Sanwa arcade stick. Looks like a standard, whoa, that's weird. Can you hear that? That's right, you can't hear it because there's no clicking. Now that's gonna feel really weird. I rely heavily on an arcade stick to click so that I know whether I've pressed it. This doesn't have clicks on it, but as I understand it, you can actually put a normal Sanwa JLF clicky connector on here and it will feel clicky just like a normal arcade stick. Not sure if you can see there, but as I push the stick, you can see there's a little sensor inside, and that's actually just sensing how far you've moved to the side. So it doesn't actually click and then know it's gone to the full right, and click and know it's gone to the full left. It's actually got a sensor that's constantly monitoring how far to the left and how far to the right you've moved. And that's how this analog stick seems to work. It says Magenta on the board. It's got a picture of a spider. The branding is all over the shop for this company. They don't know what color Magenta is. Don't know what this spider is about. Now I was told in the tutorial video that this is the same style connector as a normal TE2 Plus, so I should be able to just pull it out of my old stick and put this in the new one by opening this up here and hopefully not damaging anything in the process. This is where the original arcade stick is. I'm just gonna pull that out and I'm gonna put this new one in, like so. But I think the most important thing is you connect it with this and it needs power from one of these. And there should be both plugs in here. All right, to make this magic happen, I'm going to unplug the original JST connector here. Just pull that out, that's the 5-pin connection. And then I'm gonna unscrew this. All right, that's one screw. Number 2. Oops, the stick's about to fall out. I'm gonna have to hold it while I always feel like to do these mods you need at least 6 hands. And then I'm gonna put in the Paradise Arcade Magenta and it's falling apart. What could possibly go wrong? Alright, that's in there nice and snug. There's 2 plugs that I'm gonna go into here. One like this and another one for power. And apparently that power plug is in this box, but I need to unlock it. So let's get it out of, I need a smaller screwdriver. If you mess this part up, you end up with a loose screw inside your stick and then you have to like shake it around until you get it out. It's a bit like when you drop a plectrum, a guitar pick inside an acoustic guitar and you never find it like, ever again. Oh, awesome, they both fell into my lap. Let's take this cover off and hopefully not break anything in the process. So I've managed to take this cover off and this is what I need here. There's a power connector that I'm going to take from the cables that came inside the box. We're going to plug it into the Paradise Arcade Magenta arcades. You can actually change the tensile strength of the springs. There's like a heavy spring and a light spring, so if you don't like the feel of the stick, you can actually replace the spring. You need to have this cable which has 2 holes on it, and this one has 3 holes, but it's actually only 2 cables. Then we're going to connect that in here. Close this back up. Now usually you would test something like this before you put the screws back in, but I like to live dangerously. Where we're going, we don't need testing. Now I'm gonna plug this 5-pin connector in here. I imagine this is the correct way up. Now if I want to be able to see what's happening on my computer, I'm going to also have to plug in a USB micro, wrong, a USB mini cable into here. So I've got a USB mini cable, which also didn't come inside the box. Now if I plug it into the PC, I need to be connected like so. See, I just remembered. I actually don't have a way of closing this stick with this cable coming out, so I'm gonna have to find a new hole. Right. Okay, there's no actual hole, so I'm just going to take a button out. Now that I've got a hole in the stick, I can put this USB cable through. I really don't know if there's a smarter way to do this, but this is how I'm gonna do it. So that's how it looks with all the cables like so. I'm gonna close it, and it does now. That is the most beautiful mod I've ever done. And last but not least, we're going to need a sleeve and. Hang on a minute. Alright, this is a really weird mod. It's like a replacement stick, but it doesn't actually come with all the bits that you would expect. So I'm just gonna put that sleeve on there. It seems to fit, but it's too long. So there you can see it. This is the original plastic sleeve that came with the Magenta, but because the sleeve that I want to use, the little jacket that goes over the pole, because it's a little bit too thick, I can't use this one. I'm gonna have to use my own. Now let's install this back again. Put that on here. Once I've done this, that should be complete, right? Oh, that's weird. All right, maybe I'm just crazy or something, but originally with a normal Sanwa JLF, as you can see here, there's a little flathead screwdriver hole, and you would hold that in place while you spin the stick so that you can tighten the bolt up on here. But there's no hole here. So the only way to tighten it is to grab the neck and spin the head. We're gonna be trying this stick out with no sleeve today until I figure out, maybe there's a video I need to watch. Let me know in the comments if you know how to do it. Time to download the software. All right, so as you can see, I've got the Paradise Arcade Shop Magenta looking for USB device. This is the installer. Hold down mode button while connecting to a computer. All right, so by holding down the mode button and plugging in the USB into my computer, I've managed to get the Paradise Arcade Shop. It doesn't say Magenta anywhere on the software, which is hilarious. Whoa, there it is. Oh, it's all happening. So if I move this around, there it is. Check it out. We've got analog control, so I can actually move really slow. That's crazy, what? All right, so the software is running here and I've got the stick, and as you can see, if I slowly push it, I've got analog control on my arcade stick. That is the weirdest thing. It's got quite a high degree of granularity, much more than I was expecting. And as you can see, this is what I would normally do when I'm dashing left and right. I'd be like dashing left and right, but you can see, I'm not always pushing it directly forward. I'm kind of sometimes going forward, and sometimes going a bit low, and sometimes going a bit high. What? That's hilarious! So I can actually see, like, if I hold my hand more like this, do I have more accuracy? No, that's even worse. Sorry, so when I use the wine glass grip, my accuracy on dashing is even worse. Wow, look how I'm wild! Check this out. So I normally dash to the side with my thumb. And look at that, it's like not accurate at all. This is nuts. The initial install was a bit of a mystery, but now that I've got it running, I'm kind of excited. It's kind of satisfying to see the colors as they activate. It's like, okay, because normally with an arcade stick, you feel it, but you never really see. Apart from these little arrows on the top of on the corner of the screen, where you can see that I'm pressing buttons and all that, you usually don't get immediate feedback about what you've done with the stick, apart from that. But being able to see this while you're playing, that's so cool. Now this is just PC software. I'm just running this on my PC while the PlayStation is running the game. So the first thing I want to know is when I try to dash, how accurate are my dashes? Because look, I'm managing to dash here, but you can see I'm very nearly not getting into that zone. If I'm not careful, I would end up doing a jump like this. Maybe because I'm holding my stick a little at an angle. Maybe I need to recline. Whoa, I'm really short now. What? So that's interesting. So I've already learned. Whoa, that's crazy. I'm very on the edge of not actually dashing properly. I'm actually almost jumping up diagonally. So just by moving my seat a little bit lower, I'm already able to dash a little more accurately. Now, is this a miracle product that everyone has to buy? I don't think it's gonna be like that. I think it's more like if you're the kind of person that absolutely must have 150% control over every aspect of your stick. The feel of the buttons, the sound of the buttons, the feel of the stick, the sound of the stick, the ability to change whether this blue zone here is bigger or smaller than it is right now. Like, I've got it on the standard setting right now, but if you're the type of person who needs full, absolute control, then it's like, finally, there's a product for you. Now, personally, I like to have lots of control over the look of my stick, and I like to have a lot of control over the feel and the sound of the buttons. But it never really occurred to me that this was something that I would ever be able to benefit from. But already just doing a little bit of training here, I can already see I need to work on my input. Let's try something kind of crazy, shall we? Let's try something kind of crazy. So I've got the software set up now, and I can actually change various aspects of the software here. This is actually the diagram of my stick, and I can have these blue zones and red zones. I think the red zones are just for diagonals and the blue zones are for cardinal directions, but I've got a bunch of different options here. I can actually have cardinal directions only. Look, what? That's crazy. All right, so as you can see, I can't jump diagonal anymore. What? So you can actually change it, program it, set it, forget it, pull the USB cable out, and then go to your tournament and play with cardinal directions only. And then when you beat people, you can be like, yo, I just beat you and I don't even have diagonals. Or you could do the opposite. You could have no cardinal directions and you can play diagonals only. Can I play diagonals only? Let me see if I can actually do a DP. Yes! So you can artificially handicap yourself in these games by having cardinal directions only or diagonals only. Obviously, I think you probably want enable both so you can actually play the game. There are plenty of situations where I can imagine if you're learning from someone's trying to teach you how to play this game and you're just like, look, your issue is that you're pressing all these extra directions. Let's isolate the problem. And so being able to have control over stuff like this could open up a huge area of opportunity for people who are into fighting game and gaming in general, education, or maybe if you're, especially with esports and you're coaching people. Ah, can you see that? So as I did that super, I went like down, down, forward, forward, back down, 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 forward, forward, up. So I've got like all these extraneous commands when I'm playing the game. What I want is blue, red, blue, blue, red, blue. I did it again! Wow, this is what happens when you practice something incorrectly over and over and over again. You perfect the art of being wrong. Let me just point out something. You can already do this without the Magenta stick, right? You can see that the game already tells you what inputs are coming in, but because I now have this display available to me, I can see how far I'm going. It's like, am I actually getting better? Like, sometimes I go all the way up here into the red zone, sometimes I go just barely into the red zone. What I want is every time to go blue, red, blue, blue, red, blue, instead of what I did there, which is blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. I'm gonna try and do a combo, which ends with a super, and I'm gonna record it, and then I'm gonna watch it back later. Ah! In my defense, there's no clicks on this stick. You can hear it's completely silent. I would have to mod it. I would have to take the clicky part off this stick and stick it onto the Magenta. Alright, so that was the super. Now I'm gonna watch the video in slow motion and I'm gonna see whether I actually successfully did that without going into the red zone. There's the dot moving, it's going down. Down, forward. Forward, oh, back. Down, back. Okay, so I ended up in down, back. Ah! So I can see very clearly what the issue was in slow motion. I suppose if you could get an even higher frame rate, you might be able to see this more smoothly, but right now, that was at 3% speed, so I was just watching it, basically just watching it frame by frame. Alright, so that was a really interesting demonstration of how you can see not just that I'm doing the wrong inputs, but that you can see that I'm doing the inputs and to what degree that I'm messing them up. If I angle my stick up a bit more like this, then I'll miss different things. I've just seen here, it says stick rotation. So you could have the game rotated at 90 degrees, and then what? Can I play the game sideways like this? What? It's upside down. So you can actually play the game so that up is forward and down is backwards. That's crazy. So you could actually play the game if you would prefer to have If you need accessibility features like this, you can actually have the game, you can play your controller sideways. People would be so confused. I changed up to right and down to left. And here's the actual main thing that I haven't even touched. This is actually the thing that least interests me, or least interested me when I first heard about this concept. You can actually grab these different scroll bars and move the sensitivity, so I can make everything really, really sensitive. In fact, if I just change everything to full sensitivity, we can have the whole stick at maximum sensitivity. So if I just change this up a little bit, I got a like ultra sensitive stick. So even if I have absolutely tiny minute little movements like this, it still triggers it. It's what? You can play mini fighter. Check this out. Let's see if I can do a mini DP. I can't help it. I end up moving the stick wildly, but I'm trying to do like a really mini DP like this. That's so cool! And what's really funny is that I'm not actually plugged it into like the PC version of the game or anything. This is just, my stick is plugged into the PS4 and the board is plugged into the PC, but I can actually unplug this from the PC and I just won't be able to see real time what the analog is doing. If you don't want to see all of these 8 different controls here, you can change it to simple controls and have all of the cardinal directions change at the same time and all the diagonals change at the same time. So let's say you press jump forward way too often, you could actually just whack that up to low sensitivity. Check that out. So now you have much more sensitive cardinal directions, and it takes forever before you accidentally trigger. Very fascinating. By the way, I did check on the website and it says it's tournament legal for certain tournaments that they've checked it out with. So I think Evo, Combo Breaker, and CEO were listed on the website as tournament legal. I don't really know what will happen in the future for other tournaments, but if the biggest tournaments say it's tournament legal, then I think it's safe to say that all the other tournaments are probably going to follow suit. That's so fascinating. It's only a matter of time before we have analog control of these micro switches as well, and I have seen that PC keyboards have been releasing in 2019 analog micro switches for keyboard switches, and since you could put keyboard switches in things like gamer finger buttons, then we could have complete analog sensitivity control. We could have slightly more sensitive buttons. You could actually change it so that these little shortcut buttons on the side, you could have them to be on low sensitivity so that if you accidentally touch them, nothing happens, and that you'd have to give them a full whack to actually press them. Whereas your normal buttons, maybe if you're like quite twitchy and you really need them really sensitive, you could have them so you just touch them very lightly. Who knows? I think Magenta has a really interesting business opportunity here. They could have analog everything, and not just because the game needs analog, because the game only accepts digital inputs, but you could use it for customization like this. Now, the most common use case that I've actually seen is that if you're a charge character, you want to be able to charge really quickly. So I think it'd be something like you can have yourself down here charging, and you can actually change it to be more sensitive. So let's say I change all of this to be really sensitive, like so. Then as soon as I press down, as soon as I've gone here, I'm already charging. Normally there's time where you'd be like slowly moving the stick all the way to the outer corner. But with this stick, as soon as you've started the motion, you're already charging, and that's like a microsecond. But that is what has been a topical discussion lately, and one of the reasons that I gather that the hitbox that Daigo was using was deemed not tournament legal because he can go by pressing buttons instead of using a stick. He could go from forward to back, so from forward to back, with none of this dead zone in the middle. So essentially what Daigo was doing is he was making it look like this, where there was literally no dead zone in the middle. You're going straight from right to straight to left, and there's no downtime in between. And I think that was part of the reason. It sounds a little bit fuzzy, like they weren't really sure whether they should ban it or not, so they just banned it anyway. So you can customize this dead zone. If you're the type of person who holds the stick quite tightly, you're always going to be slightly having these micro movements when you're not actually doing anything. But you might like only want to have to move the stick quite wildly before it actually registers movement. And what's really brilliant is that you just click store. Oh, that's what this button is for. You click store and it just saves it in the PCB so that you can use it at your tournaments. Let's set this to low sensitivity. Whoa, what is this? I was gonna try something else, but I completely forgot that you can do this. You can change the, what? What is going on? If you really do hate diagonals because you jump too much, you can have them absolutely tiny like this. So I'm actually pressing down but I've got all this leeway. I can go really far to the left and really far to the right, and I still don't trigger the corner. It's only when I lock into the corner that I get that. And the thing with a square gate, which is what this is it's in a square-shaped piece of plastic that prevents it from locking into the front, but it locks into the corners. That's what it does. And because you can lock into the corner, maybe you don't need it to be that sensitive. Maybe you can have this tiny, tiny little zone of activation, and maybe that's enough for you. What? Oh wow! I've actually made it so insensitive that nothing is registering as a hit. I'm gonna unplug it from my computer. I've actually got the stick disconnected from the PC, and as you can see, it has stored everything about the thing. I now have no movement whatsoever. So I managed to program my stick to do absolutely nothing. Let's try something equally ridiculous. Personally, I'm of the opinion that if you have a weakness, it's probably just a sign that you need to learn how to do it properly. So I'm probably not going to use this software to like make up for the fact that I always press certain things accidentally, and then I'm going to remove dead zones and have this weird setup like this. I don't think that's personally how I would use this. I think I would use this more as an analysis tool. I'm going to make it really, really sensitive, so literally just moving even a tiny bit is going to set it off. Click store, and then I'm going to pull it out of the computer. Oh, that's weird. I just realized I never actually plugged power into this stick. I never actually plugged this power cable in, and it's been working. Why? But anyway, I've got it set up now, and essentially you can still see that it's on high sensitivity mode, so now if I press it just ever so slightly, it already registers the movement, whereas normally you would have to push it a little bit further to get all the way and actually get that. That's crazy. So I now have this more sensitive stick. What? And surprisingly enough, I don't rely on the clicks of the stick as much as I thought I would. I've always thought that being able to... I always felt that the clicks were a really important part of the knowing whether I'd press the direction or not. But now that I'm using this analog stick with some really nice tension, actually, it's got a really good level of tension in it, I'm not finding that I'm having too much issue with inputs. I thought because there's no clicks. Huh, interesting. I was going to install this clicky gate thing into it, but it looks like maybe I won't need it. Well, there you have it. That is the Paradise Arcade Magenta arcade stick. It's programmable. You can change it so that you can actually have it really, really sensitive, or you can have as much of this dead zone in the middle that you want. I can actually change it on the fly. I could even just click simple controls and go no dead zone or complete dead zone. I can have so much dead zone that there's actually nothing to actually press, to the point that my stick actually does nothing, or I can have it on all cardinal directions only and only have a little bit of the diagonals, so it's like I can very as much, well, in fact, if I wanted to change that, I would actually change the diagonal size. You can really, really tinker to your heart's content with this app. Not only that, you can actually rotate it. There's accessibility things where you could even find your favorite stick, mod it with a magenta, and you could actually play your stick upside down. I suppose you could actually just install the stick upside down, but you know what I mean. It means that you could do it without unscrewing everything. You could just have a setup where you play your controller sideways like this, and then you could have another controller where you have your arcade stick played upside down like this, and it would be a simple case of just plugging it into USB, recalling it from your options here on the menu, then jumping back into the game, and you've got exactly what you wanted. I think that as a product, it's still going to be a little while before Magenta finds its feet. I think more importantly than just creating a cool product that does exactly what people actually really want, like full customization of features that we've had, like the arcade stick has more or less gone unchanged for decades and decades, and you know, so many people are playing on pad now because the truth is, learning how to play on stick is probably, who knows, it might even be pretty bad for your wrist. But in addition to that, it's just really difficult to learn, and having visualization software that tells me exactly how far into the red zone I've gone when all I really wanted to do was go back into this blue zone, it's going to be so powerful as a learning tool, as a coaching tool. Even if you're just looking for new ways to enjoy the game, you could even just set it to random, open up a profile someone else uses where it's totally whacked out. This would make for great theft control, right? You can hand your stick off to someone in this situation, and they'd be like, what the heck? Like, none of the upper left corner directions work, but everything on the right side seems to work. I'm really confused. As far as I know, on the website, I think it said it runs for $99. I'd quite like it to come with an instruction manual, and it's not like a difficult mod. but for something that does require a little bit of tinkering with the actual hardware, you do probably want to make it a little bit simpler, maybe have some picture-based instructions. I think maybe like the Brook converters that convert between, you know, like a Switch controller and a PlayStation controller, even they ship with a few simple picture-based instructions. And I realize there's a YouTube video that goes into it, but I think there's a lot of streamlining that could go into this when selling the Magenta as a product. But as a concept, and for someone who's not scared to get their fingers dirty with a bit of software and, you know, opening up their stick and doing a few screws here. I mean, there's no soldering involved, so it's not a difficult mod. But you do have to kind of look up how to make it work, like to plug it into the computer. You still have to like hold down a button and then plug in the USB. There's a little bit involved, so I think there's definitely things that could be done to streamline the process as a product. But really, as a concept, this is definitely you're definitely going to see this in the future. And my prediction is that people won't really be buying Magenta sticks as like an after shop mod as frequently as I imagine Magenta will just become like a collaboration thing with products, and they'll just say with Magenta pre-installed, and people will be like, oh sweet, I've been looking to buy a stick, but I want the stick that's really great for beginners and shows me visualizations on my PC. Maybe it could be wireless, you could have it Bluetooth to the computer, showing you all this information without plugging in a USB cable. So yeah, would I recommend it to someone who's never played on stick before? I think maybe it's still in the territory of hobby modders, people who know exactly what they're doing. But I definitely think in the future, there could be some really important collaborations that happen with stick manufacturers. They could even advertise it as like the beginner set, and it could come with a Magenta stick pre-installed, and it would have advertising on the front saying like comes with visualization software to show you exactly how your inputs are working, and when you're releasing it, maybe it's too far up, but really you should be releasing it when it's straightforward here. And you could have little training programs built into the software so that you could get more points by getting more accuracy. It's a bit like Beat Saber. If you've played Beat Saber in virtual reality, you get more points for being really accurate right down the center, but in fighting games we usually don't have visualizations like this, so we don't usually see how far off. Back down, 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 forward, forward, up. I've got all these extraneous commands, and it's really interesting as an analysis tool. I'm convinced. I think it's really interesting. I just don't know if it's really 100% ready for prime time yet, and I also think that just as a company, they have a lot of opportunities in the future collaborating with manufacturers of actual full-on arcade sticks, not just as a mod, because no matter what, I think just anything that's sold as a mod, until it becomes truly modular, like just plug and play, people will always be a little scared of doing it. But once you make it really easy plug and play, or you do a collab with a stick manufacturer, I think there's a really, really powerful product here. And I really liked it actually when I changed it to high sensitivity. It does feel more responsive. This is a really nice setup. I quite like this, because it means I can get into my dash really, really quickly without having to push all the way in. Plus, when I'm dashing, sometimes it's really obvious because it's like click, 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 click. You can really hear it. So now I can have these like really, really nice, silent, really, really quiet. Well, you can see that I'm still pushing it really far, but as you can see, there are ways where you could probably train yourself to just have it really, really lightly and have the fastest possible dashes. I don't know, I think it's really interesting. So there it is, the Paradise Arcade Shop Magenta stick. It's interesting. I will try and make a follow-up video if I learn more about it. On this first day, I still don't really know exactly how to make the most use of it, but if I discover really cool uses for it, I will definitely make a video or do a stream in the future where I explore further what's possible with this programmable, fully customizable, analog-based, digital output arcade stick. Why is she jumping now? So I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, share the links and all that great stuff. If you have a question about this, do feel free to leave it in the comments. I don't know all the answers about it because I'm so new to the product, but hopefully there will be other enthusiasts in the comments section who can answer you. Or maybe join the Discord, because we do have a gear chat section where we can talk about different gear, and I do own it, so I can answer questions that, you know, are testable. So if you ask me, is it possible to set like the sensitivity up to 100% or 0% or just fiddle around with the software, I can do stuff like that. So do show up on the Discord if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next NihongoGamer video. Oh, it's really hot today.